When my mother-in-law handed me divorce papers wrapped in Christmas ribbon, she thought she'd finally won. But the guest I brought to New Year's dinner made her face turn white as snow. What happened next didn't just destroy her smile, it shattered her entire world. My name is Lainey, and this is the story of how my monster-in-law tried to destroy my marriage with the cruelest Christmas gift imaginable, and how I made her regret every second of it. 3 years ago, I married Daniel Whitmore, thinking I was getting a fairy tale ending. Daniel was everything I dreamed of: successful lawyer, gorgeous smile, and a trust fund that meant we'd never worry about money. What I didn't realize was that I was also marrying his mother, Patricia Whitmore, a woman who made the devil look like a saint. Patricia controlled everything in the Whitmore family with an iron fist wrapped in Chanel gloves. She lived in a massive estate in Greenwich, Connecticut, where every piece of furniture cost more than most people's cars. Her world was all about appearances, social status, and making sure everyone knew the Whitmore name commanded respect. From the moment Daniel introduced me, Patricia made it clear I wasn't good enough for her precious son. I was a high school art teacher from a middle-class family, definitely not the society princess she'd envisioned for her heir. "Daniel, darling," she'd say with that fake smile, "surely you could find someone more suitable. What about the Henderson girl? Her father owns half of Manhattan." But Daniel loved me, and for 2 blissful years, that was enough to keep Patricia's venom at bay. We had a beautiful wedding, though she made sure to seat my family in the back, and moved into a stunning penthouse that Daniel bought for us in the city. Then everything changed when Daniel's father, Richard, passed away last spring. Suddenly, Patricia wasn't just the matriarch. She was the sole owner of Whitmore Industries, a company worth over $200 million. And with that power came a new level of cruelty toward me. "Now that Richard's gone," she told me at the funeral reception, "I can finally clean house. And that includes getting rid of certain unsuitable elements in this family." The attacks started small. She'd forget to invite me to family gatherings, then act shocked when Daniel showed up alone. She'd make cutting comments about my clothes, my job, my background, always with that sweet smile that fooled everyone except me. "Oh, Lainey, dear," she'd coo at dinner parties, "how quaint that you work with children. Though, I suppose someone has to teach the less fortunate." Daniel would defend me, but Patricia was careful. She saved her worst behavior for when we were alone, playing the perfect mother-in-law whenever he was around. The real campaign began 6 months ago when Patricia discovered I couldn't have children. We'd been trying for a year, and after multiple doctor visits, we learned that I had severe endometriosis that made pregnancy nearly impossible. Daniel was supportive, talking about adoption or surrogacy, but Patricia saw an opportunity. "What's the point of marriage if there won't be heirs?" she said to me privately at Thanksgiving dinner. "The Whitmore bloodline is everything, and you're defective." That word, defective, hit me like a physical blow. From that moment, Patricia's mission became clear: destroy my marriage and find Daniel a suitable replacement who could give her grandchildren. She started inviting eligible women to every family event. Socialites, heiresses, anyone with the right pedigree and functioning reproductive system. She'd seat them next to Daniel at dinner and spend the evening praising their accomplishments while pointedly ignoring me. Jessica had just returned from studying art history in Florence. Patricia would gush,
"So cultured, so refined."
"And she comes from such good breeding stock. Her mother had 5 children." I watched my husband grow confused and frustrated as his mother's behavior escalated, but Patricia was careful to never cross the line when he was paying attention. The breaking point came 3 weeks before Christmas. Daniel had been working late constantly, taking on a massive case that kept him at the office until midnight. Patricia used his absence to ramp up her psychological warfare. She'd call me multiple times a day, always with some excuse. "Lainey, dear, I need you to pick up Daniel's dry cleaning. The housekeeper is busy, and I'm far too important to handle such menial tasks." When I'd arrive at her mansion to drop things off, She'd keep me waiting in the foyer like a servant, then make cutting remarks about how tired I looked or how unfortunate my outfit was. "You know," she said one particularly cruel afternoon, "I've been thinking about Daniel's happiness. He deserves so much more than this." She gestured at me like I was something unpleasant she'd found on her shoe. "He married me because he loves me," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Patricia laughed, a cold, brittle sound like breaking glass. "Oh, my sweet, naive girl. Daniel married you because he was rebelling against me. But rebellion phases end, especially when men realize what they're truly missing." She pulled out her phone and showed me photos from a charity gala I hadn't been invited to. Daniel was there, looking handsome in his tuxedo, with a stunning brunette on his arm. "Meet Vivian Ashford," Patricia said with satisfaction. "Yale Law Review, family worth $50 million, and she's already expressed interest in having children. Lots of children." My stomach dropped as I saw Daniel smiling at this woman, his hand on her waist as they posed for photos. "This was last weekend," Patricia continued. "Daniel didn't mention it, did he? They spent the entire evening together. She's everything you're not. Educated, sophisticated, fertile." I left that mansion with my hands shaking, Patricia's laughter echoing behind me. That night, I tried to ask Daniel about the gala casually, but he brushed it off. "Just business, babe. Mom insisted I go to network with potential clients." He wasn't lying, exactly, but the omission felt like a betrayal. 2 days later, Patricia called with another emergency. This time, she needed me to help decorate for the annual Whitmore Christmas party, the social event of the season where Connecticut's elite would gather to see and be seen. "I suppose you'll want to attend," she said with mock concern. "Though I'm not sure we have anything suitable for you to wear. The dress code is elevated." I spent my entire savings on a designer gown, determined to prove I belonged in Daniel's world. When I arrived at the mansion that Saturday evening, I felt confident for the first time in months. Patricia took one look at me and smiled that terrifying smile. "Oh, how lovely. Very ambitious. Though perhaps a bit much for someone of your background." The party was exactly what I'd expected. 200 of the wealthiest, most pretentious people in Connecticut, all air-kissing and name-dropping while servers in white gloves carried crystal glasses of champagne that cost more than my monthly salary. Daniel was immediately swept away by business associates, leaving me to navigate the social minefield alone. Patricia made sure I was introduced to everyone as Daniel's little wife, with just enough emphasis on little to make it sound diminutive. But the real humiliation came during the gift exchange. Every year, Patricia gave elaborate gifts to family members in front of all the guests. It was theater, designed to showcase the Whitmore generosity and taste. Last year, I'd received a beautiful pearl necklace that made me feel accepted. This year was different. And finally, Patricia announced, her voice carrying across the grand ballroom, a special gift for my daughter-in-law, Lainey. She handed me an elegantly wrapped box with a red velvet ribbon. Every eye in the room was on me as I opened it, expecting jewelry or perhaps a designer handbag. Instead, I found divorce papers. The silence was deafening as I stared at the legal documents, my name printed clearly at the top. Someone gasped. Someone else whispered. I heard the subtle sound of phone cameras clicking as society vultures captured my humiliation. "Oops," Patricia said with mock surprise, her hand flying to her chest. "How did those get in there? I must have mixed up the boxes. How embarrassing." But her eyes were sparkling with malicious delight, and I knew this was exactly what she'd planned. Daniel appeared at my side, his face red with anger. "Mother, what the hell is this?" "Just a little mishap, darling," Patricia said smoothly. "Though perhaps it's a sign. These things do happen for a reason." The party continued around us, but I felt like I was drowning. Conversations buzzed with speculation about the Whitmore marriage, and I caught fragments of whispers about that poor girl and how humiliating. Daniel drove me home in furious silence. The divorce papers crumpled in my lap like evidence of my failure. "She's gone too far this time," he said as we reached our penthouse. "I'm cutting her off completely." But I could see the doubt in his eyes, the way he looked at me like I was something fragile that might break. Patricia had planted seeds of uncertainty, and they were already taking root. The next morning, flowers arrived with a note. "So sorry about the mix-up, dear. Perhaps we should talk." Patricia, I knew she was expecting me to come crawling back, to beg for forgiveness and acceptance. Instead, I made a different choice. I called my best friend Marcus, who worked as a private investigator for high-net-worth divorce cases. "I need a favor," I said, "and I need it to be absolutely bulletproof." Marcus had been warning me about Patricia for months, insisting there were skeletons in the Whitmore closet that could bring down their perfect facade. "Give me 2 weeks," he said. "I'll find everything." While Marcus worked, I played the part of the wounded daughter-in-law. I sent Patricia a note thanking her for opening my eyes and asking if we could meet to discuss the future. She was practically purring when she called back. "Of course, dear. I always knew you were sensible underneath all that ambition." We arranged to meet at her favorite restaurant, an exclusive place where being seen was half the point. Patricia arrived dressed like she was attending a royal wedding, clearly expecting to deliver the killing blow to my marriage. "I'm so glad you've come to your senses," she said, settling into her chair with satisfied grace. "Daniel deserves someone who can give him everything: children, social connections, a proper legacy." "You're absolutely right," I agreed, watching her smile grow wider. "The Whitmore name does deserve to continue with the right kind of family." "Exactly. And I have someone perfect in mind. Vivian Ashford. You remember her from the photos. She's already expressed interest, and she comes from such good breeding stock." Patricia spent an hour detailing her plan to orchestrate my divorce and Daniel's swift remarriage to her chosen replacement. She'd already consulted lawyers, planned social events to reintroduce Daniel to suitable women, and even picked out venues for his second wedding. "Of course, there will be a generous settlement for you," she said magnanimously. "I'm not heartless. Perhaps enough for a nice little apartment in New Jersey." I nodded and smiled, letting her believe she'd won completely. That's when Marcus called with news that changed everything. Patricia Whitmore wasn't just a social climber, she was a criminal. 20 years ago, before she'd married into the Whitmore family, Patricia had been Patricia Melbourne, a secretary at a pharmaceutical company in Chicago. She'd been embezzling funds to support her expensive tastes when she met Richard Whitmore at a charity event. Marcus had found records showing that Patricia had stolen over $500,000 from her employer before disappearing to Connecticut and reinventing herself as Richard's fiancée. The statute of limitations had expired, but there was more. After marrying Richard, Patricia had continued her criminal activities on a grander scale. She'd been skimming money from Whitmore Industries for years, hiding it in offshore accounts under false names. She'd also been insider trading using information from Daniel's law firm, making millions in illegal stock transactions. But the real bombshell was about Vivian Ashford. Vivian wasn't just a random socialite Patricia wanted to set up with Daniel. She was Patricia's illegitimate daughter, born during an affair Patricia had early in her marriage to Richard. Patricia had been secretly supporting Vivian her entire life, paying for her education and lifestyle while positioning her to eventually marry Daniel, her own half-brother. The plan was sick and twisted. Patricia would destroy my marriage, manipulate Daniel into marrying his half-sister, and maintain complete control over the Whitmore fortune through her secret daughter. Marcus had documentation for everything: bank records, DNA tests, private communications between Patricia and Vivian discussing their family business. I stared at the evidence, feeling like I'd discovered a bomb that could level Patricia's entire world. "What do you want to do with this?" Marcus asked. I thought about the divorce papers, the years of humiliation, the cruel smile on Patricia's face as she'd tried to destroy my marriage. Then I smiled, a smile that would have made Patricia proud. I want to give her exactly what she deserves. The plan I hatched was beautiful in its simplicity. Patricia had invited Daniel and me to a New Year's Eve dinner at the mansion, a small, intimate gathering of the Whitmore inner circle. She'd made it clear this would be my last appearance as a member of the family before Daniel filed for divorce. "Just close family," she'd said sweetly. A chance for us all to say goodbye properly. What Patricia didn't know was that I'd be bringing a guest. I spent the week leading up to New Year's playing the perfect victim. I let Patricia think she'd broken me completely, even asking her advice about moving on with grace and finding closure. "I'm so proud of you for accepting reality," Patricia cooed during our final phone call. "It takes real character to know when you're beaten." On New Year's Eve, I dressed carefully in a simple black dress, elegant but subdued, exactly what Patricia would expect from a defeated woman. Daniel picked me up looking uncomfortable but resigned, clearly believing this dinner would be the end of our marriage. "Maybe we can work things out after this," he said half-heartedly as we drove to Greenwich. "Maybe," I agreed, squeezing his hand. "After tonight, everything will be different." We arrived at the mansion to find Patricia in full glory, diamond necklace, designer gown, hair perfect. She'd invited her closest friends and family, about 15 people total, all eager to witness my final humiliation. "Lainey, darling," Patricia exclaimed, air-kissing my cheeks. "You look so peaceful, like you finally found acceptance." Vivian Ashford was there, of course, looking stunning in emerald green and staying close to Daniel like she was already planning their future together. Patricia kept steering conversations toward Vivian's accomplishments and availability. Vivian just returned from a month in Switzerland, Patricia announced during cocktails. "Such a cultured girl. And she's expressed interest in starting a family soon." I watched Daniel's confused expression as Patricia continued her obvious matchmaking, completely ignoring the fact that his wife was standing right there. Dinner was served in the formal dining room, with Patricia holding court at the head of the massive mahogany table. The conversation flowed around topics I wasn't expected to understand: investments, social events, family histories that predated my arrival. As dessert was being served, Patricia stood to make a toast. "To new beginnings," she said, raising her crystal champagne flute. "And to family, real family, staying together through all changes." Everyone drank except me. I was waiting for my cue. That's when the doorbell rang. Patricia frowned. Who could that be? We're not expecting anyone else. The butler appeared in the doorway, looking uncomfortable. "Madam, there's a gentleman here who says Mrs. Laney invited him." "A Mr. Marcuston?" Patricia's face flickered with confusion. "Laney, dear, you didn't mention bringing a guest." "Actually," I said, standing slowly, "I have a small New Year surprise for everyone. I hope you don't mind that I invited someone to join us." Marcus walked into the dining room carrying a leather briefcase, looking every inch the professional investigator he was. Patricia's social instincts kicked in immediately. "How lovely," she said with forced brightness. "Any friend of Laney's is welcome, of course. Please sit down." "Thank you," Marcus said, settling into the empty chair beside me. "I've been so looking forward to meeting Patricia Whitmore. Or should I say, Patricia Melbourne." The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Patricia's champagne flute froze halfway to her lips. "I'm sorry, I don't understand." "Of course you do," Marcus said pleasantly, opening his briefcase. "Patricia Melbourne, formerly of Chicago, Illinois. Former secretary at Brennan Pharmaceuticals before you disappeared with $500,000 in company funds." The gasps around the table were audible. Daniel looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Patricia's face had gone completely white beneath her perfect makeup. That's ridiculous," Patricia stammered. I don't know what this man is talking about. I have bank records, Marcus continued, pulling out documents, transfer receipts, even surveillance footage from your last day at Brennan Pharmaceuticals when you cleaned out the safe and disappeared. He spread the papers across Patricia's perfect table like he was dealing cards. But that's just the beginning. Should I tell them about the offshore accounts? The insider trading? Or should we start with the really interesting family secret? Patricia was gripping the edge of the table so hard her knuckles had turned white. Daniel, make him stop. This is outrageous. Throw him out immediately. But Daniel was staring at the documents, his lawyer's brain processing the implications. These look legitimate, he said slowly. Oh, they're completely legitimate, Marcus assured him. Your mother has been stealing from Whitmore Industries for 20 years. But the real shocker is sitting right across from you. Every eye turned to Vivian, who had gone as pale as Patricia. Meet Vivian Ashford, Marcus announced. Also known as Vivian Melbourne. Patricia's secret daughter, born from an affair she had during her first year of marriage to your father. The silence was so complete you could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. That's impossible, Daniel whispered. DNA doesn't lie, Marcus said, producing another set of documents. Patricia has been supporting Vivian her entire life, paying for her education, her lifestyle, everything. And she's been grooming her for years to marry you, Daniel. Her own half-brother. Vivian shot to her feet, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know, she cried. Mother, you said he was just a friend. You said this was about securing our future. The word mother hung in the air like an accusation. Patricia finally found her voice, but it came out as a croak. This is insane. These are lies. Fabrications. Federal banking records aren't fabrications, Marcus replied. Neither are DNA tests or recorded phone conversations discussing your family business with Vivian. He pulled out a small recording device and pressed play. Patricia's voice filled the dining room, crystal clear. Once Daniel divorces that pathetic teacher, you'll step in. He'll never suspect you're his sister, and I'll control everything through you. The Whitmore fortune will stay in our family where it belongs. The recording continued with Vivian's voice. What if he finds out we're related? And Patricia's reply, he won't. And even if he did, it would be too late. Rich men have been marrying their relatives for centuries to keep fortunes intact. Daniel looked like he was going to be sick. Several guests were already gathering their things, desperate to escape the scandal before it contaminated them. Patricia made one last desperate attempt at control. None of this changes anything, she said, her voice shaking but defiant. Lainey is still wrong for our family. She still can't give you children. She still doesn't belong in our world. I stood up slowly, feeling calmer than I had in months. You're absolutely right, I said. I don't belong in a world where mothers try to marry their daughters to their sons for money. I don't belong in a world where stealing and lying and destroying people is considered normal. I turned to Daniel, who was staring at me with something like awe. But I do belong with my husband, who loves me for exactly who I am. And we're going to build our own family, through adoption, surrogacy, or just being the best aunt and uncle in the world to our friends' kids. Daniel stood and took my hand, his grip firm and warm. Mom, he said, his voice deadly quiet, you're cut off. From the company, from the family money, from our lives. Security will escort you out of the building tomorrow morning. Patricia crumpled into her chair, the perfect facade finally shattered completely. Daniel, please. I'm your mother. Everything I did was for the family. No, Daniel said firmly. Everything you did was for yourself. A real mother would have loved the woman who made her son happy. As we walked out of that mansion, leaving Patricia's world in ruins behind us, I felt lighter than I had in years. Marcus was waiting by our car, grinning. How did that feel? He asked. Like justice, I replied. But the real twist was still coming. 6 months later, we received a package at our apartment. Inside was a letter from Patricia, who is now serving time for embezzlement and fraud. But this wasn't an apology. It was a confession that made my blood run cold. Patricia revealed that she'd been slowly poisoning me at family dinners for months, slipping small amounts of a fertility drug blocker into my food and drinks. The endometriosis that had made pregnancy impossible? It was artificially induced by Patricia's systematic poisoning. "I needed you to be defective," she wrote in her spidery handwriting. "It was the only way to make Daniel see you were worthless." The medical tests confirmed it. With treatment, there was a good chance I could conceive naturally. 9 months later, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. We named her Hope. And when Patricia requested visitation rights from prison, claiming grandparent privileges, I sent her a photo of Hope's first smile along with a simple note. Some gifts are worth waiting for. Patricia had tried to destroy my marriage with divorce papers wrapped in Christmas ribbon. Instead, she gave me the greatest gift of all, the truth that set me free. The final revelation that Patricia had been systematically poisoning Lainey to cause infertility, and that Lainey ultimately gets pregnant and has the child Patricia claimed she never could, turning Patricia's cruelest weapon into Lainey's greatest victory.